Dude. All right, listen. Here's the point, bro. You're gonna have to take your shirt off and show us how.
Yeah, well, I was just telling Sam about how I started going to the gym with this new guy, and oh my gosh, I am being destroyed in the gym. Is
Dude,
crazy.
I got.
Everything is sore.
You were there this morning. You said what time? 4:15.
4:15 yesterday. I was there at 4. I was late when I came in at 4:15 today. He was like, "You're late." Push-ups.
Damn, dude. I'm like 4:15. That's when I just woke up for the very first time. Yeah. Yeah.
That's still good. You're waking up at 4:15, Sam?
No, I go to sleep and then I wake up and I'm wide awake. You know what I mean? So that's just my thing. Uh,
That's great.
yes.
That's
Hang on.
great.
We hopped on before I had all my stuff in order here. So hang on.
Mm.
All right. Hey, listen. I just wait. Are we, Jeff? I'm struggling. The stream is. Are we good?
Yes, it is good. It just lagged out for a second. You're good.
Okay. All right, man. I just had a really cool conversation with another teacher. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Heck, what kind of like a university professor or like a high
Yeah,
school teacher?
university professor. But when you're a teacher, you're a teacher, man. It's a class.
Right.
Class. It's not even a class. It's like a.
Mm.
It's a spirit. It's a spiritual awakening of. It's a beingness. How about that? Beingness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel Adukwu, and from the UK, man. And man, what a cool dude! Like this is a guy. Like we are twin. We are brothers from different mothers, as we say, man. You know what I mean? We are brothers from across the planet. And
That's
yeah, how cool,
awesome.
man. Yeah, really.
Wow.
It was so
Wow.
inspiring to talk to him. So definitely,
Yeah, what did you take away? What was inspiring about it?
dude, well, first he started watching my videos and he got inspired by them, and then he reached out to me. But
Awesome.
the reason he reached out to me was, I think, because Destiny said that I needed to talk to him. You know what I mean? Just because, yeah, just someone who just loves teaching and wants to try new things and do new things. And
Mm.
holy smokes, man, what a cool dude. So anyway, it's
Wow.
yeah.
Is there is there a theme that you related on that was like, yeah, man, we are brothers from a different mother, or
Yeah. No,
that you
what it is,
identify with in him? What do you
yeah.
identify with in him?
Well,
Or
because he's the first person, one of the few people. No, hang on. He's one of the few people who I hear talking about the importance of learning from students.
mm,
Every opportunity to learn from students and every interaction. And you know what, man? When I hear that, when someone says that to me, that's it right there. That's it.
mm,
I don't think it's true. It needs to be true for all teachers, but for my brand of teaching or my style of teaching,
right.
that is that's the most important thing. And that's what I
That
got
spoke
from.
to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, it spoke to me because that was one of the really critical things that shifted for me. Actually, it's kind of funny because he asked me the question, like, were there any pivotal moments that led me to kind of shift the way I teach? And I gave him 3, but I forgot there's a 4th. And
Mm,
that's when I
mm.
was in that monastery. And at the end of 2 weeks, the Roshi, I got to ask him a question, you know.
Mhm,
I told you this
mhm.
story, right? You know the story?
Uh, the Roshi, can you continue with it? Because I usually remember stories like this, and it's not coming to mind yet.
So I was meditating in this monastery. You know, we would meditate 3 or 4 times a day, and
Mhm,
mostly in silence. We were spent our days in silence. We didn't talk very much. So,
mhm,
uh, except at meal times. And it was a Zen Buddhist monastery in upstate New York. And I just was trying to settle my mind and try to come to answer a few questions that I felt like were really important for me. that I needed to answer. And one was the question that ultimately I was able to ask him. So on my last day there, I got to have a personal one-on-one with him, which was either going to last for like 3 minutes or 20 minutes. He didn't know.
You never
It's
knew.
just, no, he opened his eyes and then he just, I asked the question, he responds, and then the moment he closes his eyes, it's like, okay, we're done, man. You know? And then I had to leave. It was crazy. It's so funny. In class, I'm going to demonstrate in class how it happened. I have to do this because it's so much fun. But in any case, the question I asked him was, by the measures of student responses to me and so on, I felt I've kind of found my calling, so to speak, right from very early on in the classroom. But for some reason, I just feel like I need to run away from it. I just need to run away. And this was after I had been teaching for probably about 16, 17 years.
So you're facing a little bit of burnout at that point.
Yeah, you call it burnout. I don't know what you would really call it, but for me, it was just like, oh God, there's got to be something more than this. I don't know. Something, yeah, burnout, I suppose, but I just didn't feel like I was really in the right space.
Right.
So I said, can you help me understand like what's going on with me right now? He didn't know me, right? And I wasn't the kind of teacher that I am today at all, but I was successful as we think about success, right? Students evaluated my class really highly and they enjoy it and so on and so forth. But I did a lot of walking into the classroom and just giving information, far too much, not entirely, but far too much. Right? Anyway, this guy says, as he opens his eyes, it was wild. He's like, it's like that thing on Squid Game, that big statue in Squid Game.
Oh, yeah.
So he says, you have to learn how to learn from your students. And I was like, it just hit me like a lightning bolt, like boom, and I was like, whoa. And I said, wait, what do you mean? You got to say more about that, right? So he's like, look.
That was it. Curtains closed.
That was it, man. I'm like, wait, come back. But that's it. You're done, man.
He just fades away.
Can you repeat the end of that, because the stream lagged for just 2 seconds, and it was right as you were saying what he was about to say, and then you guys reacted big. So can you just repeat the end again?
So he said, so just as I say, wait, you got to give me more. Like, what else? So he gave me a few more ideas, and then I needed more, and then he closed his eyes, and that was the end. I wasn't going to get
like a dream.
Dude, it was like a dream, and he wasn't going to give me anything else, right? Like that was not his job at all, right? His job was just to push me, right? Well, he did. He did. I mean, no, I mean, I left going like, oh my God, okay, hang on. Job here. I have a task.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did that do you remember some of the extra things that he told you before he faded away into the background?
No, I don't. He said, look, something about, to be a teacher means you have to really respect that your students know things that you need to know.
Yeah.
And this is what Emmanuel was saying. This is why I connected with Emmanuel in this way, because he is the first person in a long time who has said that to me. And I'm just like, dude, thank you for saying that, because it really validates some things, when you get a chance to meet somebody like that. So I got a chance to meet him today. So anyway.
That's so cool. And was there ever a time where this already occurred to you before, that you need to learn from your students, but it didn't hit you the same way, and then he said this and it was like boom, or it never occurred?
Never once did that enter my mind.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I was the kind of teacher that would, when I taught a small seminar of like, 30 students, we would sit in a circle, right, kind of thing. But I wasn't learning. I was just getting them to talk to each other, but I didn't see it as me learning from them.
Yeah.
You see, there's a difference there. And it wasn't that I was arrogant and thought but it's just like that wasn't part of it. And now, man, now it's just everybody everybody I meet, every student for sure, but everybody I meet is someone to learn from, you know.
Right. But it
So
sounds like, yeah, it sounds like earlier, like they were learning from each other when you have them sit in a
yeah,
dialogue.
that's right.
Maybe you're like,
Yeah.
oh, they're learning from each other.
Kind of like what you do,
Right.
what you do in your work, and what you're getting facilitators to do. You're setting up spaces so the students can learn from one another.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And that's so
But
cool because that's one of the tenets of like large positional knowledge that they have something to offer,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
so funny. And then like in my class, appreciative inquiry, you know, is like believing, appreciating, you know, like those that, you know, the other positions and like finding what their strength is or just I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
theme, like the threads.
yeah, absolutely
way.
appreciating, man. You know, it's like yesterday we started talking in class. So we did Iran, right? You know. Now here we've got these 3 students from Iran, right? You know, one's been in the US for 4 years. Well, they've all been in the US for 4 years, actually. One emigrated here. The other 2 are students, one an undergrad, one a PhD student. So they've all been in the US for 4 years. 2 are Iranian citizens, and one is now on the way to be a US citizen. But we were in the conversation for about 20 minutes or so. And then I just looked out at the class. I kind of walked. I said, is this not the coolest thing you've ever experienced? You know,
I appreciate it.
like you get to hear from them, man. You know what I mean? You get to hear from them. Like it's not filtered through all the nonsense of whatever, all the media
hearsay
hype. Right. Yeah, it's like we were just talking about average stuff. We weren't talking about the government and politics, or a little bit we did, but mostly I just wanted to get what's the sociology of an average of your lives back in Iran. What do you do? What's it about? You know, what's it like? How are things?
Yeah. And yeah. And it's well, because how often we just don't see that or just the appreciation of the individual. You know,
well, you also need so groups need a facilitator to help them with the questions that they're going to ask, right? I mean, this is your work.
Right.
For me, what I do, because I know a fair amount about Iran, right? And Iranian society and Iranian people.
Oh, you cut out. Can you pause to Jeopardy music, Jeff? Can you go to nothing yet.
Test.
There we go.
I can see that.
So you were like,
I know. It's my cable. I got to change my cable. I changed to this cable because it's only 2 feet long. So I don't have cables all over my desk, and I'm going to have to use my other one. So but the idea is
you finished that Iranians.
Yeah, because I know something. I'm able to ask certain questions. So everybody in the class is like, oh my God, Iran. Well, not everybody. Some people don't even know what Iran is. Iran, what is that, a country, or is that like, you know, what is that? I mean, you know,
right.
Still really quiet. Huh. Oh, there we go. Oh, now I'm back up.
Yep, you're good.
So the issue is, but you know, sometimes like we need a facilitator. We also need someone to ask the kind of questions that we don't even know that we want to ask, right? So that's the beauty of the conversation is that when you have someone, like when I'm with someone and they're asking, I'm hearing them have a conversation and they're each asking each other questions that are really interesting questions. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have even thought to ask that question, but that's cool. Like, okay, yeah, how's the person going to answer that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So,
Is
Anyways,
there are there any pieces of the content yesterday that you felt was really good for the students to hear about Iranian people?
well,
Just
for
in the
sure, the stuff about uh, the one woman, Dima was talking about. She had roommates. She had her roommates who were very religious. You know, they wore religious clothing, and she didn't. You know, she would just kind of hang her scarf over her neck or whatever, right?
while she was in Iran or here?
Yeah, well, she was an undergrad in Iran, in Tehran. And so
So there's okay.
so what's interesting is like, well, a lot of people don't really understand that there are these divides, but we can all be friends. We're all friends. Like we can be friends. So I have these two close friends, and they're roommates, and we go out and we have tea and coffee and this and that. And, like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like just stuff like that. It's like the average everyday stuff, that we have this kind of idea that the nation is so divided. Well, like people have in the United States.
Interesting. Okay.
If you watch the State of the Union from overseas, you think like, oh my God, the US, they're so incredibly divided. It's like, well, yeah, on one hand we are, but on the other hand, like, I don't know, my Trump neighbors, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. It's like, yeah, okay. So that's the kind that those it's little things like that matter. Or I put this slide up of the president of Iran speaking to parliament. I think he was speaking to parliament. And there was a woman next to him who was signing, ASL. Well, I don't know if they were using ASL. They probably were. I mean, well, there's international sign language. There's many different languages for signing. So probably they weren't using ASL. But anyway, I'm like, hey, isn't that interesting? Here's the Iranian president speaking to the Iranian Congress or parliament or whatever it is. I don't know what they call it. And they have someone signing, just like us. It's not like it's not like a big revelation, but it's just those are the tiny things that stand out to me that show us how connected we are.
How human, right.
Yeah, they do sign language. Guess there are people all over the world who are hearing impaired. And so, yeah, we've all discovered that we have people who sign for them. Like, isn't that awesome? Right. Yeah, they do it in Iran too. Huh. And
that's yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, like not to undermine like differences, because differences are important, but like people look for differences in a way that are divisive rather than seeing the human pieces that actually connect us, is where you're saying like that the fact that look, they're signing too and we sign over here, and just is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Instead of like looking, most people when they look at differences, the way that we look at differences is like conflict, and it's important at like World in Conversation, right? Yeah. But like how other people look at differences are different, sometimes, not always, but
no, definitely. No, I think what you're saying is definitely right on. The idea that these Iranians are, well, they wouldn't do that, like, it's like people who would think like President Trump would care about a family that didn't have food on the table or that experienced racism on the part of whatever. I don't know. So what do you mean, man? Like, of course, like people are very complex, and of course the Iranians care about that. Like, my God. So anyway,
I'm actually, I'm a little unaware of the current. Wait, did you want to switch to something?
No, you would ask the question. And the other thing that I thought really valuable was just the conversation about young people. They haven't had, they have the morality police in Iran, right?
No, wait,
the morality, yeah, they're the ones that walk around to just make sure that no one's doing anything immoral. Right? The thing that a lot of people would like to have here in the United States. So if they see alcohol, or they see, who knows, women aren't covered, men aren't covered, because you're supposed to wear.
Is that like a Sharia law
like Sharia stuff,
Got it. Okay.
So they're doing all sorts of things. Could be that you're jaywalking. I mean, I don't know. You're breaking these rules. You're doing certain things. I don't know. So But anyway, the morality police, they walk around, and women are always just because like hair is a big thing for people, right? Not for everybody, but for lots of people, man. Hair is a really big thing. So you don't want to cover your hair up, Like I've been with women who cover. I only see them covered, and then one day I see them not covered because we're in some environment when they're not covered, and there's like hair like Lori's hair, you know what I mean? And it's like, God, you don't think that's, I don't know, these things matter for folks, right? But anyway, so women are always, people push back on that stuff, right?
Wait, and so what are you saying exactly about their hair being covered?
Oh, yeah.
Being covered, like that they care about?
Yeah, people care.
Can you say?
Yeah,
That they
like
care
our
about
bodies.
like having it open and
Yeah, well,
visible,
not everybody does. But
Mhm.
if you don't like your hair, I suppose then being hijabi is probably a really nice thing because you don't have to worry about it. Or you don't have to. You can have bad hair days. Wake up,
So
have
you're
a bad
speaking to
hair
the
day, cover it up. You're all
so,
good.
so you're speaking to some of the differences within Iran, and like how one of
Yeah.
the PhD student was saying, oh, some people are divided, within our country.
Yeah.
And
Well, there are a lot of divides. But actually, but I was going to tell this story. So you got these morality police, right? And they're out. And I should have guessed this. I didn't know this, but if you would have asked me, does it exist? I would have said, oh yeah. You use when you travel and like, we've got we can find out where the police are. He's like, okay, 15 miles ahead, there's a cop with a radar, like, oh, better slow down kind of stuff. So they have an app for morality police. Okay, they were spotted in this area. So you turn the app on. When you see a morality police officer, you turn the app on and you put a pin where they are. And then everybody else can, you're walking down the street, you have your scarf wrapped around your neck. And you look at the app and you're like, oh man, up here around the corner, there's some morality police.
Got to put it on.
Yeah, just put it on. There you go.
That's the same thing. Like, oh, cops 15 miles up. Got to put the seatbelt on.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
Wow.
You can only police people to the degree to which they're willing to be policed, man. That's just, that's how life is, man.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. What I was going to ask you the question, what are some perceptions that you're aware of that Americans have towards Iranians? Because
I asked them that. I said, what are some of the biggest misconceptions? And they're like, well, I don't remember what they said. Does anyone in the chat, was anyone watching? What did they say?
That's interesting.
I don't remember what they said, but that was my second question. Whatever. First off, well, how would you what is it about Iranian culture? It's really cool. But what are some of the misconceptions? And so here's the thing, man. If you go to the video that we have up, right? And the very first comment on the video, and Jeff, we should pin a comment up there. The very first comment is like, hey, next time you should talk to people who don't have to return to Iran and aren't afraid of their government, like Iranians, And I'm like, well, oh, there it is. Yeah, Robert Harris. One is that they speak Arabic. Yeah, that they're Arabs and they're Persians. They speak Farsi. Yeah, that was one. Yeah.
Just kind of like group them together.
Yeah, which is not a big deal for them. Like we don't have anything against Arabs, but but it's like, we speak English, like thinking that people in France speak English. It's like, no, actually, Okay, so anyway, the first comment was, hey, why don't you next time speak with people who aren't afraid of the government and they can talk freely? And I'm like, well, why do I need to do that? Like, you can go anywhere and hear that. You can hear Iranian expats talking all about the evils of the Iranian government and one thing after another, right? So I don't need to do that. I just need to look, why don't we can do something different. Like, anybody can look for that and find it very quickly. But what we get the opportunity to do is just have people talk about their lives.
Right.
That's pretty.
Just understand the culture, not talk about the government or the oppression that they feel from.
That's right. And we had about 60 minutes because I had to do a short intro about the history of Iran. And but we didn't have a lot of time. I mean, we could have kept that conversation going for 2-3 hours, but that's not, and which would have been awesome, but we don't have enough time for that. So
Did students have many questions for them?
They did, but I didn't really open it up. We only asked I think 3 questions and a couple from the stream because I had so many questions, man. I mean, I knew there were certain places I wanted to go.
Where you wanted to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. 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 Hang on. Girls and Cali girls NS. That's what it is. Cali girl says it would be like calling an English speaker a Mexican speaker, kind of, but it's really more about identities. Like Persians aren't Arabs. Yeah, it's really just an identity thing. And mind you, this goes back thousands of years, right? Because Persia, I mean, Iran is really at the intersection of the Silk Road from the east to the west. So Persian culture goes back millennia, right? So there's a there's a deep, you go back to Cyrus the Great and stuff. It's just it's a really important identity piece for Persians, just because we don't know about Persian Gulf Yeah. Alex Coleman. Yes. My TA, first off, I told them all before class. I said, listen, man, damn things. You can say anything you want about what you think about life, about just like I can say anything I want about my government and about what's going on in Washington and about whether we should be doing X, Y, or Z, but it's not going to change a damn thing. My words, my class, nothing, man. Nothing that you say here is going to change anything back home in Iran. Not a single thing. Best thing you can possibly do, that we can possibly do, is not that they were going to be negative and stuff, but but you can imagine, right? Best thing we can possibly do is just have a conversation and introduce people to the Iranian culture a little bit. Just let them see the humanity of. They each talked about, they've just, if bombing happens, if we go to war in Iran or we start bombing, they all have friends and family. They're afraid.
What did you mean exactly when you said nothing they say here is going to change a single thing in Iran? Like what?
Well, let's say that we had this conversation about the Iranian government is kind of clamping down on protesters who are protesting for greater rights and freedom and so on, right? And then we're like, yeah, the Iranian government shouldn't do those things, And someone in the Iranian government is going to be watching the class on their phone and go like, oh, fuck, oh, shit.
Gotta change it.
We got to change policy here. You know what I mean? It's not going to matter. It's more likely they're going to be like, all right, who's that person saying those things in a classroom in the United States? Who are they? Let's figure out who they are.
Interesting. If they were Iranian?
Yeah, are they Iranian? Are they, who's their family? Who's it, that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. So is protesting, what's that? Would the morality police say something if there was a person protesting in Iran about?
Totally, man. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Totally.
So that's one of the things that's definitely.
Well, that wouldn't be just the morality police. That would be the police. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of so anyway, it's cool. It was a really, really nice conversation. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Were there any, what do you want to speak on any of the cases?
By the way, I want to respond to something. Angela Ashkins says, we can't allow them to have nuclear capabilities. Well, that's what they say about us, right? That's what North Korea says. when the United States 30 years ago says, listen, George Bush said it. George Bush the first, and then George Bush the second, and probably Clinton too. I don't know, right? So listen, my goal is regime change in North Korea. That North Korea, as we know it, no longer exists, and North Korea becomes part of South Korea, where it should be. So we need to eliminate all these people in North Korea. Well, when the country with 20,000 nuclear weapons and so on, when somebody says that, you're like, hey man, we better bulk up here. We got to get nuclear weapons. So like, if they come after us, we can be like, well, here come the nukes from the US, but we just fired some off to California or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So you've kind of just, you have to constantly put yourself in the shoes of other people to see how they're seeing things.
Mm-hmm. That it's not just that other side is dangerous because they're just dangerous. But
like, look, I don't want the Iranians to have nuclear weapons, but I don't want anyone to have nuclear weapons,
Right.
And so
like everyone has their cause. I get
but the Iranians are also, listen, man, we've been very clear about our goal is to, overthrow the government of Iran. Since the Ayatollah Khomeini came back into Iran in 1979 or 1980. When did he come back? At the very end of 79. So when was it? No, it was 1980. I don't know. No, because Reagan got elected in 1980, 76. 1980. Yeah. Anyway,
what was the problem with that? The Ayatollah, like being involved in the government in America, seeing that as a problem.
Well, because first off, the Iranians have been very active in promoting subversive terror groups around the world, man. Like that's pretty clear. Make some kind of excuse for them,
Got it. Okay.
But so are other folks active, the US, the UK, the Russians, Putin, my good friend Vladimir, Putin, as Trump called him. Yeah, how about the Russians? I mean, it's one after another, right? So there are no excuses there. But the point is, you got to just constantly put yourself, when you're doing statecraft, you got to put yourself in the shoes of other folks and other leaders. Now, they could just have elections, like in North Korea, for example. Just have elections and then it won't be an issue. But that's not what it is, man. People want to grab onto power and they want to hang onto power. Just like here, a lot of people would like Trump to run a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time. Of course, he won't live that long, but they would like that if he could. Basically, you give people the opportunity and they'll push for some kind of authoritarian dictatorship. They don't want it elsewhere, and they don't want it for your candidate. Like that would be dictatorship. But I got this guy, who I really like, and we'd be better off if he were running the country for the next 20 years, and then his sons and his sons' sons, and it's never daughters, by the way, but
that's I guess
it's not true. In North Korea, it looks like he's chosen his daughter, to be the. So anyway, so that's the thing, man. Yeah. I have done some. I've done a lot of. I read a lot of stuff, and I've watched a lot of videos about propaganda in North Korea. It's really quite. And I've met with North Koreans when I'm in Korea. So we had a woman from North Korea on our live stream actually a couple of years ago. Then you should be against. Yeah, if you want a world with nuclear weapons, then you should be against proliferation, no matter what. Yeah, if it was just the U.S., China, and Russia, then it would be a lot easier to come to an agreement. Yeah, I agree with that. But the problem is now we got India, and we got Pakistan, and we have Israel and South Africa, and suddenly, boom, it really changes things. It's a problem. But I'm against nuclear weapons, obviously. That should go without saying. I had this idea. Did I say this last week on the live stream, bro? Did we talk about nukes last week?
I don't think so.
I was telling Lori this. I was listening to, it was on Sunday. I think I was listening to this guy in The Economist talking on an Economist podcast. You have these nuclear states, and they have nuclear weapons, and they all have these shelters. Yeah, the states, these nations that own nuclear weapons, and they all have these shelters for their leaders. And he's like, it's really bizarre, to think about it, but they have shelters for their leaders, like we do. We have these underground bunkers for,
Right.
our leaders, so they can go to the underground bunkers. The rest of us, we can get burnt the hell up, but they're going to go to the underground bunkers.
And
right?
all the millionaires, billionaires, and they all have these.
Whatever it is, man. They got airplanes. They got it work. We got an airplane that's equipped that can fly around like God knows how many days, and get refueled and all that kind of thing, right?
Wow.
And like, dude, do you think about that, man? The mentality, the thinking of somebody who's like, well, we're going to build a bunker for our president where our president can live, can survive a nuclear holocaust. I'm like, what the fuck? What are they going to do when they come out of the bunker, man? Who are they going to govern? The insanity of that. It's so insane. And it pisses me off to think that you're going to, wait, what? Yeah, it's just so anyway.
Yeah. Can you say more about why it pisses you off?
Because who are you? You're going to be the one, you're the one making these decisions. Like, you're not sitting down with your adversaries and being like, listen, y'all, this is insanity. We got to get rid of all these weapons of mass destruction. This is like the dumbest thing in the world, man. What are we thinking?
Right.
You're not doing that. And yet, you're going to have this bunker that I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah.
This miniseries on HBO, I think it's HBO or it's Prime, maybe it's Prime, called Fallout, from the video game Fallout.
Okay.
So it's about it's on Amazon. So it's a post-apocalyptic world. It's worth watching, man. But that's kind of that. People walking around in the Las Vegas kind of California area.
About this in a podcast before, when Joe Rogan had this war journalist on, and she wrote a book about, it was like in 60 minutes, like the whole world could be over, like you could be in like a post-apocalyptic essentially state, because of the real danger of these nuclear weapons and how fast we could just go into this state, and how these world leaders, I think I may have told you this, but how these world leaders like Biden and I think Putin, or like just don't even like, they haven't spoken to each other in a certain amount of like months, or like, and so they're just like getting narratives from either side, and when what would be best is for like communication, there's just no communication, and so they're just listening to who knows what, and then if they perceive threat, I guess she was like, all it takes is a button to press.
Dude.
Or
there've been so many, and now with computers, there've been so many potential near misses, so to speak, man.
Right.
Yeah. Nah, it's very it's deeply unsettling in my mind, man. All right, listen, man. Let's look at a couple questions from yesterday, and then I'm gonna pack it up. I'm gonna try to end it for today, only because I'm fighting something off, and I have a dinner tonight with a friend who's going to be in class tomorrow. So Ian, why should the U.S. be involved militarily in Iran when we don't offer aid to countries with higher death counts and the same repressive regimes? I think that what we would say is because the Iranians are attempting to acquire the Iranian to nuclear weapons, build nuclear weapons. That's what we would say. Yeah. And the other day, Trump said, or somebody in the administration said, they're 3 days away. I'm like, dude, come on, man. It's crazy the things that people say. Jacob Moore is 9817. How are you, man? Okay, so anyway, that's what people in the U.S. would say, or some people in the. Do you think Iran's involvement in buddying up with Russia, providing drones, etc., in the Ukraine war to Russia and trading oil? Do you think the U.S. wants to go in and control the oil? We definitely are interested in the oil, but I think we got enough oil in Venezuela at this point. I don't think we're thinking that we can control the oil. But I think that, and I don't think the fact that Iran is making drones for Russia, I'm not so sure that for some people in the U.S. government, I'm not so sure that that's a problem. We'll just make weapons and sell them around the world to undemocratic regimes. The U.S. sells to more undemocratic regimes than any other nation, by the way. Do the students know that Netanyahu has been pushing for the U.S. to go to war with Iran on behalf of Israel since the 90s? No, they didn't. They don't know that. They're not thinking that. Yeah. How is Zoroastrianism now in Iran? It's alive, man. Yeah. Axel asked that question. Yeah, that is quite alive. To some people, money is money. Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah, Wallflower says, God. Growing up, you're generally taken care of to where all focus can be directed after studies, Wallflower said. Hey, you know what? We're going to have a really interesting class, by the way, tomorrow. Elijah, make sure at some point you watch tomorrow's class over the weekend. Just listen to it.
Yeah, no, I will. I'll play it tomorrow while it's live. I actually did that last Thursday. But
oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Stephen, the answer to your question is they have a lot of thoughts, as you might imagine, that we didn't express in the class. Yep. And yeah, you just can't. You know, the Iranian government is really finding people on social media and so on, and they're very advanced in that way, and able to do that. So people are very careful about what they say. And what I said to students is, listen, man, I don't want to do something where we have to pull the video down. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to do that. Like, what's the point? So we don't have to go there. Bro, you can imagine me having I mean, I don't know, like, I'm having a conversation on Iran and I'm not going to like say anything about the government. It's just like, yeah, you know, the Iranian government. Like, come on, man. Yeah. So no, I'm not. It's yeah. Okay. So yeah. Quito, Ecuadorian. Yeah, definitely. Just reach out onto the email for sure. Okay. Is there an embargo and visa restrictions? How do Iranian students come to the U.S. to study? Well, the two students in my class, they got their visas 4 years ago before Trump really cracked down on things. So that's how they got here, and now they got their visa, and we haven't pulled it away. So. It's anyone else's responsibility to change Iran. This is just digital simulations. Do you think it is anyone else's responsibility to change Iran, or is it up to the Iranians? Well, you know, we can say it's up to the Iranians in the end, right? I mean, and that the problem is when other outside forces, you know, so that's how we get these wars, man. And they start. It's just, you know, it just starts as a little ball rolling downhill, and before you know it, it's a big snowball. And then, yeah. So.
And the havoc is because of how we engage. I guess.
Yeah, you just can't. Yeah, you just can't not. It's just shit's gonna get out of control, man. That's what it is. So. As the population of feeling for a possible post-Ayatollah country, is there viable political alternative? There's not much of a viable political alternative at this point, but there would be very quickly. How much is the concept of state or country separated from the current leadership? Yeah, a fair amount, man. Look, people who are educated, I mean, not people who are going to the madrasas and stuff, right? But people who are educated, Iranians are very educated. They know, man. They know what's going on. It's like Abbasam used to say about Saddam Hussein living in Iraq. It's like, look, we know he's a scorpion, man, this guy. So just don't get stung. Just be careful about what you say and what you do, and don't get stung. We're not dumb. We get it.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. So BZ the man. Some folks are worried that the Iran regime change might fail like Iraq and Afghanistan. Could it be different in Iran? Yeah, we put this question up yesterday. It could be different, but it could be different. I don't know. It's such a complicated question, man. That's a question for someone who's an Iranian political scholar. Yeah. Axel, one of the most Israeli records from a Jewish female singer with traditional Persian folk songs. Oh yeah, I remember listening. I saw something about her. No, I don't know if the students heard that. Yeah. Get some Jay. It's like, this is the problem, right? Hussein was evil, but he stabilized Iran in a way, right? So you could say the same. What I said the same yesterday about the Shah, the father, and Shah the son. They also modernized Iran. Gaddafi did the same thing in Libya. He pushed education. He modernized the education system. He built transportation systems. But the problem is, people do this and they want power and they want to stay in power, man. So you can dictators can do some really, really good things, but when they want to stay in power, they F it all up.
I think, oh man, I don't know if it was a comedian and they were giving a tour of like all these great places, and they were like, look at this airport. It's the most amazing airport. And the question was like, oh, like, when was this airport built, or like who made this airport? And then he was like, like it was Hitler who like built this airport. But I don't know. That just reminded me.
The airport was built. The design of the airport was back in the 1930, probably late 30s. Then, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what they say about Mussolini. He made the trains run on time. I mean, I don't know if that's really true. I think I read something recently that's wasn't entirely true. But that, growing up my whole life, that's what I heard about Mussolini. Damn. And the fascists forced the trains to run on time. That's the thing.
Yeah. Mussolini was like the Iron Fist, right? Am I getting that right?
I think so. Was it the Iron Fist? I think so.
I think I did a high school project on him.
All right. Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah. I think.
All right, man. Listen, I'm like, I'm feeling like,
fighting off sickness.
Nah, okay. So on Sunday I was just a little bit drained, and so I slept all day on Sunday, and I woke up Monday, I was fine.
Nice.
Tuesday I was fine. Then I woke up today and I feel a little bit drained. I probably don't sound drained, but I know what I feel like, and I have a question. Yeah. Why Quito Ecuadorian 5 says, why is it that the world leaders can't behave like our Social 19 class with like class and calm? It's a damn good question, man. I was watching that. I mean, I didn't actually watch last night, the State of the Union, but I heard some bits and pieces of it on the BBC. It's always fun listening to having things get filtered through the British media, and or just any foreign media. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. But I'm reminded that these things are all, they've always been like that. You think it's like, bro, have you ever watched the State of the Union from, Richard Nixon or Jimmy Carter?
Not Richard Nixon, but I've watched some before, and I was looking at Trump's earlier. I didn't finish it, but I was looking at some of it.
It's kind of circus like. I mean, there's a certain fun quality of it like that. It's like
Right.
British, like listening to the British Parliament. Listening to people.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember how you referenced that.
Yeah, people, the way they critique. Trump's just a little bit crass in how he does it. He's just not very skilled. But man, some of these folks over in the UK, man, they're so skilled. Yeah. The insults that they can deliver, and then the hooting and the hollering, and it's really a lot of fun. And you got to be smart to follow, man, because the insults are so convoluted and complex that if you're not paying attention, if you're not a thinker, you're not even going to get it. It's going to go right over your head.
Oh, they're hidden. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were more explicit, but now that I know that, I remember you told me to watch that.
Yeah, you just got to watch one sometime and watch them insult one another. It's quite clever.
Implicitly is what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's very subtle.
I couldn't do it. I can't think that fast or talk that fast, so I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's not in my blood. It's just not in my nature to insult. So
Right.
I can't, even when it's a game and you're expected to do it,
like that version of playfulness.
Yeah, I still can't do it. And I think maybe also just having been engaging with 20-year-olds for 4 decades, I have to being playful. They won't see it as playful. So
yeah, there's Brenton mentions sarcasm and us being weary of how we use sarcasm as as leaders that wink, and engaging with students in certain ways.
Jeff had an example the other day, man, with one of our videos we put up, and I said something about a black student or whatever in the comment, and just completely missed the sarcasm. I don't know, Jeff. I don't remember what it was, but it's kind of funny. It's yeah, okay, that's what I was saying.
You're really low.
Wait,
my XLR cables. What the heck? It was an Instagram message in which they were responding to you making a joke about the reason why you didn't do something was because you're lazy, and obviously you weren't calling the student lazy, you were making fun of that. And somebody responded they did not get that. They thought you were very much calling somebody lazy and took a lot of offense to it.
I'm gonna have a student sit on the front table and I'm gonna call them lazy. You're lazy, aren't you? Yeah. But if you're
this
not,
is a public punishment. Public humiliation.
Well, that's part of the problem with shorts and stuff, right? People can come across a short, and that's the only thing they ever see of, let's say, of the class, right? So it's well, I guess you don't know what it is. I always make the assumption that things don't get pulled out of context, which is, of course, allows me to say anything at all. But in fact, every time I've gotten in trouble, it's because something got pulled out and out of context. But I can't stop. I don't know where you're going to break the sentence up, so to speak, right? All right, but listen, man, I think we're going to cut here, and just so I can go get some rest before my dinner, and and we'll go.
Yeah, rest up, Professor.
All right, man. And Jeff, I think we're good. We're good for tomorrow. I think we're all set. I think we're good for next week. I'm definitely going to try to stream next Wednesday, same time, at least for a little bit of time. So
Heck
I think
yeah.
it'll be really good. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hopping on, and enjoy. Be well. Take care of yourselves. And I'm going to hop out.